going to go down to the West Coast, where the trial of a man charged with setting the most expensive fire in American history, well, that trial ended in a mistrial today after a jury failed to reach a verdict. 10 jurors pushed for 30-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht to be acquitted of arson charges against him. Only 2 jurors wanted to convict him. They were not convinced that Rinderknecht was responsible for setting a fire that led to the disastrous Palisades fire last year. Here's one of the decidedly unpersuaded jurors speaking just after the mistrial was declared.
I don't see why everybody else's negligence of doing things incorrectly, where he needs to be responsible for the whole Palisades. If there was enough proof, I'm not going to put somebody down for that entire thing. A lot happened there.
It is a stunning fail for federal prosecutors who had sought to paint Rinderknecht as a mentally unstable loner, a firebug who, according to his own phone searches, was obsessed with getting revenge on Los Angeles' wealthy, famous, and elite. Cell phone data and surveillance video put Rinderknecht feet away from the scene of the fire seconds after it started. And witnesses who saw him that night say he was acting erratically. But the case had significant flaws. Defense lawyers argued there was no direct physical evidence tying Rinderknecht to the crime. And perhaps the biggest hurdle of all for prosecutors was proving that the smaller fire that Rinderknecht started, known as the Lockman fire, actually turned into the much larger and deadlier Palisades fire 6 days later. Likely because those smoldering embers from the Lockman fire weren't fully put out by LA firefighters. And according to that juror that we just heard from, it's that 6-day lag time that did the prosecution in. Rinderknecht's distraught father spoke outside the court, saying his son was the government's, quote, scapegoat.
We want to thank the jury because they've done a tremendous job. It was a big win. I mean, 10 people out of 12 just were so convinced he's innocent. We know from day one he's innocent, so that's why it's particularly painful for us to see all that's, what he got caught into was a big machine.
Rinderknecht's family wants him freed from jail. He's been in a jail cell during this whole trial, but a judge has already set a new trial date for October after federal prosecutors vowed to retry him, and the judge has ordered that Rinderknecht be held behind bars until then. Still, considering prosecutors only won over 2 of the 12 jurors, how much better can they expect to do a second time? Let's bring in our panel, former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani and criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool, both Los Angeles area attorneys, both affected by these fires, by the way. Neama, I don't know, this feels like a big lose for the prosecutors here. It wasn't just the 10 jurors, regular jurors, who said, we don't think he did it. Even the alternate jurors were saying if we had a vote, we would have said not guilty too.
Elizabeth, I'm as pro-prosecution as they come, but I'm not going to mince words. This was nothing less than a complete and total loss by the Department of Justice. I know Bill Asaley, the U.S. attorney, I respect him, but he needs to walk away from this case. I mean, being a prosecutor is not about wins and losses. It's about justice. Verdict means to speak the truth. The jurors have spoken. I'm frankly surprised that the 10 couldn't convince the 2 to get an outright acquittal. When the judge discharged the jurors today, Elizabeth, one of them started crying. That's how bad this case was. Again, I thought it was stronger. Clearly, it was not. We're taught to respect those jury verdicts. I think the Department of Justice should do the right thing, dismiss this case. This young man has been in custody for 9 months. It does not make sense to retry him again. And you heard those jurors. They're blaming the city. They're blaming the fire department. They're blaming DWP. They're blaming everyone. This guy might have started that smaller fire, but they're not going to be able to connect the dots. And I think retrying it in October is a mistake. They need to move on.
Yeah, Brian, juror number 4 said there just wasn't proof and that there were a lot of holes in the case, and saying, I can't say for sure if he was guilty. She also said it would be a waste of money for the government to retry him, and yet that's exactly what hours later the DOJ announced it was going to do.
Hey, Elizabeth, let's start with the DOJ's decision. Lickety split. Oh, we're going to try this case again. That is patently
They didn't even have time, Brian, to sit down and go over the case and see, or interview the jurors and see what they got wrong.
Precisely, Elizabeth. That's what a responsible prosecutor does. Let's look what happened. Where did we fail? To your point, are we going to have any new evidence that might get us a conviction? Are they looking through this fictional lens? Oh, we're gonna nail them next time. That's what they were saying. That is just not responsible to taxpayer money as well. The waste of a courtroom. But look, at the end of the day, I'm proud of this jury. Here's why, Elizabeth. This trial judge basically gutted this causation argument we're talking about. She was trying to tell the jurors, you shouldn't consider there was failed leadership, that fire hydrants didn't work.
That the LA firefighters didn't properly put out the embers.
Yeah, they didn't put it out, and there weren't enough fire trucks deployed in the first case. And the dry brush that was not removed for 2 years. That all coalesced to exacerbate this. But the point I wanted to make is, years ago, I think she's still on TV, Judge Judy, the famous Judge Judy. She was asked, what's the best trait of a juror? She said, gut. What does your gut tell you? And that is exactly what these jurors did. They went with gut. This didn't seem right. It didn't look right. It didn't smell right. And that's why the 10 of them decided to acquit.
Brian, as a defense attorney, very quick, what do you make of the judge still ordering him to be held in jail? He's, as Neama points out, he's been in jail already 9 months. 10 of 12 jurors wanted to acquit him, and yet he's still behind bars tonight and will be until October.
100% think that that's not correct. He should be let out on bail. Even he could wear an ankle bracelet, right? And so they can monitor him. Where's he going to go, right?
Yeah.
And again, that tells me again, to me, there just feels like there's some kind of political undercurrent here that's deflecting from what really went wrong here.
Neama, super quick, 10 seconds. What are the chances prosecutors will win at their second bite at the apple here?
No, I don't think so. You got to tip your hat to Steve Haney. There's very few people that stand up to the DOJ and win. Federal prosecutors win 90 to 95% of the time. He's one of the few people that has actually challenged them and won. I think if they do this again, he will prevail again.
All right, Brian Claypool, Neama Rahmani, thank you both so much. I think we'll be talking about this again at some point.